and welcome to the Neo News Today podcast. I'm your host, Dylan of Neo News Today. In episode 48 of the NNT pod, I had a chance to sit down and speak with Alexander DiGirolamo, the O3 Labs lead business developer. In this episode, we talked about Alexander's background, the first time he came across the O3 wallet as a user, building a multi-chain wallet to capture a larger market share, how market sentiment impacts how the team interacts with various types of O3 users, next steps for O3, and much more. So I hope you enjoy listening to this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. Hey guys, what's going on? Dylan with the Neo News Today podcast. Today we are speaking with Alexander DiGirolamo, the O3 Labs lead business developer. How are you doing today, Alexander?
Hey, Dylan. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's honestly a pleasure to have you join the Neo News Today podcast because we've been covering O3 Labs since 2017. And obviously, there was a major shift in the team last year, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I just want to provide our listeners with a little bit of context about who you are and what your background is. So can you just share with us a little bit about your background in blockchain and cryptocurrency and what you do with O3 Labs now?
Sure. So I got started in blockchain in 2015, and with Ethereum and the Ethereum ecosystem. I've worked on some ICOs, various decentralized applications, and some other projects as well. Mostly they were all Ethereum based, but there's been some others as well. So it was I guess a new experience, joining the O3 team and engaging with the Neo ecosystem. It's been, different from Ethereum for sure. But my role here with O3 is in business development, and I also deal with some marketing type activities and community building as well.
So are you the only O3 Labs team member that's based in the US right now?
Yes, currently I am the only American. We have some from New Zealand and China and Tokyo, but yes, I'm the only U.S. based.
So you've been in the blockchain industry since 2015. So is this sort of the first hyper distributed team that you've been a part of, or are you used to working in these distributed manners?
Sure. Well, to this extent, I think it's the most distributed. But yeah, obviously being in the United States, I haven't encountered any, all American teams, I guess. So yeah, I'm used to. I've worked on some projects with some developers from Estonia in Europe, and but this is the first, mostly Asian based team that I've worked on. So it's presented some, new challenges, I guess.
Yeah, definitely dealing with time zone changes and late night and early morning calls is a wake up call for some. So you've participated in the Ethereum DAO. We were discussing this in our conversation before we started recording. And you've done marketing and business development. So it sounds like you have a plethora of skills and knowledge to draw on. So I'm curious as to why the O3 Labs team brought you on board.
Sure. Well, it was just kind of by chance, I guess. We One of the developers and myself have a mutual contact, and she got in touch. She contacted me and said that there was a team, looking for an overseas kind of community building, community representative. And so I said, yeah, it sounds interesting. And then she told me that it was for the O3 team, and I happen to already have the O3 app, and you know I was somewhat aware of their work, so I said, yeah, that sounds exciting. Let's link up. So then I met with the team and kind of had like an interview type uh, discussion, and we kind of talked about some of the goals and some other things, and so from there it all came together.
So, when you were interviewing with the O3 Labs team, were they specifically looking for a Western community liaison or manager?
Sure. Well, I'm not fully sure about that one. That would probably be uh, a question for them. But if, from my understanding, I believe probably that they were looking for a Western representative. Someone that could help. That was knowledgeable with the North American and European markets, and that could help the team or help the project grow in that direction.
O3 Labs was founded in 2017, which was comprised of Europeans and Americans based out of Tokyo. Then in 2020, a new team acquired the O3 assets and began to carry the project forward. So, from your perspective, what was the process like for finding and onboarding the new O3? And did Neo Global Development seek out the current O3 team?
Yeah, so now that one, I have very limited knowledge on that part in terms of the NGD. I think maybe I was one of the last team members to join, and from maybe the management of our current team was already established. So I think my interactions were exclusively, through them and in the interviewing process and joining the team. So the transition, I think I came right after that. So I don't really have any, firsthand knowledge of that, but I do know about the growth and the progress we've made kind of since the transition.
Cool. So then maybe I can pull a little bit on this thread then. So, um, during the trans, or I guess slightly after the transition is when you were brought on board. So, what has the O3 Labs relationship with Neo Global Development and Neo Foundation been like since the team transitioned from the original O3 Labs to the team as we know it now?
Well, I think they've maintained a very close relationship on the development side. Our developers are working to support Neo and to support some of the projects, Flamingo, um, and so in terms of development, I think the teams are very close. But as far as some of the marketing aspects and community building, we have our independence, but we we still assist Neo in any way we can.
Awesome. So I'm just curious to learn a little bit more about the efforts of building a community, especially for O3 Labs, which is becoming a multi-chain wallet. So what were sort of the steps that you took to get the new O3 Labs community off the ground, and how might users or participants from different blockchain networks sort of interact with you? Like, what are the differences between Ethereum users, Bitcoin users, and Neo users, if there is one?
Sure. So the first thing we did when building the community was, well, we already had an existing community, so we assessed kind of what was already in place, and in the that's one of the best assets I think that O3 has to this day is the support of a really strong community and supportive community. They've been great, and they've kind of helped us grow. So we looked at what was already in place, and then we outlined some areas where we saw some room for improvement. So first we established the Telegram community. It's got probably I think 2,500 members last time I checked, and we put a increased focus on Twitter, which is very popular with blockchain organizations, and so And then from there, we moved out to some of the other demographics like Ethereum users. And, I think one of my roles or my primary roles there was to kind of transition or to recruit, you know, um, new users and things from the other crypto markets, like the other coins rather, Ethereum, Bitcoin.
So O3 Labs is a multi-chain wallet. And we're going to get into a little bit more of the work that you and your team are doing for integrating support for multiple assets. But before we do that, this is a Neo-oriented podcast. So I just want to hear from your perspective, what are your current efforts as it relates to doing outreach to your users about Neo? And if at all, how does Neo 3's development impact the work that you do?
Sure. So I think one of the challenges that we faced um, as a wallet was that we only we originally only supported Neo and Ontology, and while those might be big in some markets, in the Western market, their kind of influence or their reach was largely limited. So we initially had kind of an education process where um, we tried to sharpen the messaging for Neo and kind of explain to the public why, what advantages Neo has over some other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, for instance. And I think a lot of people, don't really understand the benefits or aren't aware of the benefits maybe until they are really introduced to it and kind of get a firsthand experience of using Neo versus using Ethereum because the advantages are fairly significant. In terms of Neo 3, I think our team has taken a lead role in terms of some of the development things as far as I'm aware.
Mhm.
But I know that the teams have been working closely in preparation, and I think over the next month or so, there should be some more news about that, and so you may begin to see some updates coming in that support some of the features. Um, but I don't know firsthand some of the technical insights, but I know that the team has been working, around the clock to to in preparation for the launch.
Yeah, it's always interesting to be on the marketing or business side for large projects just before a major upgrade because there's not much you can market or say before the development has actually been done. And let alone if we're not technical developers ourselves, it's hard to kind of convey what's been going on in the weeds. Um, so beyond Neo, O3 Labs is working into creating an interoperable system. It's creating a wallet that supports multiple chains. And as far as I'm concerned, there's support offered for Neo, Ontology, Bitcoin, and now Ethereum. So can you just tell us a little bit about what the goal is for integrating these multiple chains, and are there other chains that are on the roadmap?
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said earlier, the reach of Neo in ontology seemed fairly limited when we first started, and even maybe even today. So we kind of assessed, what's the best way for us to grow, and we also looked at the market and looked at what some of the other players were doing in terms of assets, and we've kind of seen that the whole market, the market in general is kind of moving towards these multi-coin wallets where one wallet can handle all basically all of the cryptos, and so we didn't really want to go quite that far where we have 80 different cryptocurrencies, but we thought that if we kind of looked at each currency and assessed it individually, and then we would make a determination for uh, which ones we thought would be useful to our users, and how to best grow. And so we kind of came up with the first one was obviously Bitcoin, which is the standard. We could see the price has been skyrocketing, and it's been creating a lot of media sensation. It's kind of crypto is finally in the mainstream. So we came out with Bitcoin support, and then Ethereum just seemed like the natural course. I mean, those two cryptos alone, I think, account for like 67% of the market share. So without those, I mean, the demographic in your potential customer base is limited. Where just by introducing those two, now you have three times the possible customer market. And so I think that those are kind of they're fundamental to growing a wallet. You have to have the biggest players in there, and so I think we added both of those. Then we have on the roadmap. I think I was discussing with the team. I mean, we were considering some options. I know that Polkadot is an exciting project, and they kind of are focused on interoperability of blockchains, and that's right along the train of thought that or the goals that we had. So I do believe that that will be on the roadmap for the future as well.
Something that I'm kind of curious to pick your brain about. You've O3 Labs. You've been with the team for it's 3 quarters now that the new team has taken responsibility, and we have obviously gone into a bull market or kind of a hyper rise in price increases. So, what is the reaction from the O3 Labs community during these times? Are you seeing an increase in people wanting to learn more about the assets that you provide support for? Are you seeing your users ask for more functionality? What are sort of the differences so far in Q1 2021 versus Q2 or Q3 of 2020?
Sure. So there's been a lot of excitement. Obviously, we've had an influx of new users and people that have very little experience. So in terms of that, it's been you've had to engage far more with the kind of new rush of users than back in Q2, where most of the people that we interacted with, they were knowledgeable. They knew how to apply the technology and stuff. These kind of new wave of users is needed some work. So we've had to get far more personable and have lengthy discussions and kind of education sessions. Where you're teaching them how to use all this stuff, and so it's been a little difficult to keep up with at times, but um, so I think in market terms, we haven't really seen Neo kind of have the same growth as like Bitcoin, for instance. So I think that, or I hope that Neo will start to catch this next wave here, and the price will start to increase. I think it's much easier dealing with our users when Neo is performing well. So I think it would hopefully now would be a good time for many to get in with Neo. So we are seeing some renewed interest as of the past few weeks for Neo, and I think some people probably understand that the growth that we've seen, it will kind of trickle down to the altcoins. So
Yeah, and one of the sort of first interesting aspects that really kind of opened my eyes to what O3 Labs was working on was when, and this is back in the day, we're talking 2 years ago now, when the platform integrated the ability to purchase cryptocurrency with fiat currency. So, during these kind of major moves in either direction, exchanges often see a lot of transactions. There's a lot of fees that they're able to collect. So I'm assuming that the market is acting in a similar fashion to fiat to crypto on and off ramp providers. So is there a plan for O3 to begin deriving revenue, or a sort of revitalized effort into vamping up these off ramps or on ramps? Maybe you could just share a little bit more about what this sort of revenue process might look like moving forward.
Sure. Yeah. So it's interesting that you mentioned the debit card or the payment card because that's when I first heard of that. That's what introduced me to O3 back in what you said it was 2017, I think. So when I heard about that, that was I was like, wow, this is really cool. Especially it was available right on the mobile app, which I don't really recall anyone else having that. There may have been another one, but that was the first I had heard of it. So that's when I kind of was introduced to O3, and so I've kind of followed along the process as well. So I think when we kind of took over the team, um, we assessed the current partnerships that we had. There were already numerous um, companies that I thought was very promising. Was called MoonPay,
Mm-hmm.
which is a fiat on ramp that offers services for Visa, Mastercard, and they do Apple Pay as well. So I reached out to them and kind of got the discussion going, and so we agreed to a contract with them, and so now right in the O3 app, if you there's a buy crypto, and that enables our users to purchase cryptocurrency right in the app using their Visa or debit cards, or excuse me, credit or debit cards. There's Visa, Mastercard, and you can even use Apple Pay. And so I think they're going to be expanding um, the payment services, the payments that they accept. So I think maybe in the future there'll be Android Pay or Google Pay or an increased number of payment options for. So yeah, I think in terms of revenue, right now we're mostly operating on a pretty thin budget, but I think in the near future there's going to be some opportunities for us to really expand that and kind of grow the revenue side.
Cool. Well, cognizant of your time and wrapping up, I want to ask one final question. What is the grand vision for O3 Labs?
Well, I think the grand vision would probably, let's say, would be a cross chain wallet. So we would like to introduce, an interoperability that a wallet that enables users to, have a one-stop shop, I guess, where they can hold, store all their cryptos and also interact with we'll be coming out with O3 Finance in the near future, which is like a DeFi portal for that spans numerous cryptocurrencies. So I think with DeFi and interoperability, having multiple chains, you know, I, that's where we're headed towards at the moment.
Awesome. O3 Finance sounds like a project that is on the roadmap. So at Neo News Today, we'll obviously be keeping our ears to the ground. I want to thank you so much, Alexander, for taking the time to come and chat with us. It was awesome to finally catch up with the new O3 Labs team, and I look forward to having you again on a future podcast.
Sure. Well, thanks, Dylan. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the invite, and we'll be following Neo News Today closely as well, as always.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Thanks.
Well, what did you think of that conversation? I appreciated Alexander's perspective of capturing Ethereum and Bitcoin users on the O3 wallet, then exposing them to Neo to help them grow awareness through using the coin on the wallet. It was also cool to hear Alexander talking about discovering the O3 wallet for the first time when the initial fiat on-ramp was integrated, which was actually in 2019. Both of us had mentioned the wrong years. Shame. And we at Neo News Today will be keeping an eye on the forthcoming O3 finance and provide any announcements or new information about the project as it is made available. To keep up to date with the latest in the Neo ecosystem, visit www.neonewstoday.com. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, and or Spotify. And leave a 5-star review if you feel that others should hear our content. Every subscription and review helps others learn more about the Neo News Today podcast and the Neo ecosystem. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the Neo News Today podcast, and we look forward to catching you next time.